Good morning. My name is Lori Winkler, and I'm the injury prevention nurse at SSM Health Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital. And with myself, with Dr. Wathen, who is our assistant professor of pediatrics and the medical director for the general medical units at SSM Health Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital, have moved forward in trying to educate our healthcare providers on safe sleep and what are the basic safe sleep recommendations according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. We have no financial interests or affiliations to disclose, and we will not be discussing any non-FDA approved or off-label uses of products or services. Let me correct myself in that I will be the only one presenting. However, Dr. Wathen is the co-author of this presentation, and he is our medical director for our Safe Sleep program. The goals and objectives for this session. First of all, the number one goal is that we're going to understand what is the actual importance of safe sleep education. But yet, I also want you to feel empowered to begin your safe sleep program within your own institution or in your physician's office, if that be the case. The objectives that we will be doing, we are going to review the history of safe sleep. We're going to review what are the current definitions so that we can understand the literature. As we're reading up on the literature, we're able to identify what definition goes along with what actual terminology it is. Review the most current recommendations based on the American Academy of Pediatrics Safe Sleep Task Force, and then how are we going to be able to assist you in implementing strategies that you can use on your unit for a safe sleep program. So let's start with some definitions. SUID, this is the new current term, which is kind of an umbrella term that encompasses and includes SIDS and accidental suffocation and strangulation in bed. SUIDs are sudden unexpected infant death, like I said, is the overarching umbrella that is now being currently used. Underneath that umbrella is SIDS, or sudden infant death syndrome, and then accidental suffocation and strangulation in bed, which you may see in the literature as ASSB. Room sharing. Room sharing means that that baby is sleeping in the same room with the parent or caregiver in their own safe sleep environment. And actually, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics recommendations, room sharing is actually encouraged for the first 6 months of life up to the first year of life, and in fact can reduce the risk of sleep-related infant death by 50%. Bed sharing, on the other hand, means that that baby is sleeping on the same surface with someone else, such as an adult mattress, such as a couch or a recliner. So it's very important that we understand what the definitions are. A little bit of history about SIDS, or sleep-related infant death. In all actuality, the term SIDS was first used in 1969. And as you see this continuum, it tells you and shows you that, for example, in 1974, the SIDS Act was passed by Congress. Actually, it was developed in 74 and then finally passed in 1975. And this continuum is inclusive worldwide. In 1992, however, the American Academy of Pediatrics began recommending supine sleeping or side sleeping. And then the Back to Sleep campaign was started by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the National Institute of Health, stating that, you know, let's educate our parents and let's really make awareness that babies need to sleep on their back or on their side. And they started to see that trends of they started to see that some of the trends of the SIDS deaths were decreasing when they started the Back to Sleep campaign in the United States. And so the death rate was still very high. So they went back to look for other trends that they thought could be a contributing factor. And then in 1996, they determined that bed sharing, or the baby sleeping in a sleep environment that included blankets, pillows, comforters, toys, actually was causing these babies to suffocate. So in 1996, then they implemented that the new recommendation was that babies solely sleep on their back. So no more side sleeping, because what they had found were that babies that slept on their sides, maybe whether there was like a wedge underneath the baby to keep them on their side to reduce reflux, that these babies would have what we call accidental, they would accidentally roll over and they were unable to flip back over and they would suffocate. Because at what age can a baby breathe out of their mouth? And this is something I ask my parents all of the time. And the responses that I get are, anywhere from in utero all the way up to a year old. The correct answer is that a baby is considered to be an obligate nose breather until the age of 6 months, which is very, very, very important for parents and caregivers to understand, as well as for you, because it helps to put it into perspective, this accidental suffocation and strangulation in bed. Anything that covers the baby's nose, that baby is unable to breathe. In 1996, the Back to Sleep campaign switched to the Safe to Sleep campaign, and that's what it is currently. It is that babies always sleep. It is the ABCs of safe sleep, if you will. They always sleep alone. They always sleep on their back. They always sleep in a safety-approved crib or with a firm mattress. They sleep in a pack and play or a portable play yard or in a bassinet, and they sleep on their back. And then D and E stands for D, we don't want to overheat the baby, and we don't want to expose the child to any sort of smoke or including vaping, any type of fumes. So whether it be the mother smoking during pregnancy or smoking after the baby is born, so no second or third hand smoke. And then the E stands for every time. Every time that baby goes to sleep, it's important that parents follow the ABCs of safe sleep. In 2011, the American Academy of Pediatrics Task Force on SIDS expanded their recommendations, and in 2016, the recommendations, they did provide updates. So that's kind of where we are as far as on the continuum of safe sleep practices. So I like this graphic here in that it kind of gives you that umbrella effect to kind of help differentiate or help you understand that SUIDS is the overarching term. And under that, you have your SIDS or your sudden infant death syndrome. And then the other raindrop is your accidental suffocation and strangulation in bed. And since they started the Back to Sleep campaign, that they did see a decrease of about 50% of babies dying from SIDS. However, as you'll see here in a minute, that the trends for accidental suffocation and strangulation in bed are actually going up. So did you know that every year in the United States, about 3,500 babies in our country will die from a sleep-related infant death? And it's sad to say, I'm here to tell you that the majority of these babies will die from something that's totally preventable, and that is the unsafe sleep practices. SIDS, or sleep-related infant death, they are the #1 cause of death in our infants between 1 month of age and 1 year of age. And I ask you why? Excuse me. The answer is because, again, they're obligate nose breathers. That's one thing. They only breathe out of their nose. They don't breathe out of their mouth. The other thing is that unsafe sleep practices. Each year in the United States, like I said, there will be about 3,500 sudden unexpected infant death cases, which actually equals out to be about 10 deaths per day of our babies. In 2019, in the state of Missouri, unfortunately, we ranked 33rd nationally, but we had 6.4 deaths per 1,000 live births, which the national rate was 5.8 deaths per 1,000 births. And 66 cases we had were considered to, or were classified or listed on the death certificate as a result of unintentional suffocation. In Illinois in 2019, as you see, they rank 31st, and they are not too far, or we're not too far behind them, but they had 6.2 deaths per 1,000 births compared to the national rate of 5.8. So this is the graphic that comes from the National Vital Statistics System through the CDC that kind of gives you an overall picture of infant sleep-related deaths beginning in 1990 and going up to 2017. And as you see, the blue line or the blue graph kind of shows you that there's kind of that's the combined SUID rate. So that includes that sudden infant death syndrome. However, it also includes like unknown causes and accidental suffocation and strangulation in bed. And yes, overall, the cases are of infant death are going down. And as you see, there was a significant drop pretty much after they started the awareness campaigns, like in between like 1999, 2000, 2001 of sudden infant death syndrome. So that graph or that trend is going down. However, if you look at the purple line beginning about the same time, around 2002, 2003, you're starting to see an incline in the accidental suffocation and strangulation in bed. This is totally preventable. It is so vital and it is so important that we as educators really provide and educate our parents and caregivers, giving them the consistent messaging that is evidence-based, and that when we do this, we do it at various stages throughout their, like prenatally, 24 hours after the baby, within the first 24 to 48 hours after the baby's delivered. But then this education and this consistent messaging continues on throughout their prenatal visits. Sudden unexpected infant death, if you look at it on a national basis by race and ethnicity between 2010 and 2013, your American Native Indian and Alaska Native babies and your African American babies, they are the ones that are at the highest and greatest risk of both SIDS, unintentional suffocation or accidental suffocation and strangulation in bed, and even those with unknown causes. So what is the textbook definition of SIDS and accidental suffocation and strangulation in bed, or combined SUIDs? Sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS, is the sudden and unexpected death of an apparently healthy infant under the age of 1 year, which remains unexplained after 3 things have been done and proven to be without a cause or proven to be normal. A complete medical history. Did the mom did she have her prenatal care? Did she take her prenatal vitamins? Was she healthy? Did she drink alcohol, smoke cigarettes, do any type of illicit substances? Has she been sick or has the baby been sick? If all of that is normal, and then when the baby dies, either the medical examiner or the coroner, depending on where you live, will come in and do a death scene investigation with law enforcement. And they take pictures and they do kind of like a reenactment. If all of that is normal and the autopsy does not show a cause of death, the medical examiner or the coroner will list the cause of death as being SIDS. So when we talk about this death scene investigation, I will tell you, every county has a child fatality review board that convenes to discuss and determine children's death, if you will, if they are not under the medical care of a private physician for some other medical reason. And every month I sit on the Child Fatality Review Board in 6 counties in the state of Missouri, and we review these deaths. We look at the complete medical history. We look at the death scene investigation, those pictures that they take, and we hear from law enforcement and EMS. And we determine, could this have been prevented? Was it a homicide, or was it truly, in fact, an unintentional death? And it's very devastating for me monthly when I see the pictures and I hear the stories, and there is a pack and play or a bassinet in the bedroom right next to the parents, but yet they choose to make a different decision by putting the baby in bed with them, and then these tragedies occur. Accidental suffocation and strangulation in bed is that baby is suffocating from sharing a bed with someone, sleeping in an adult mattress or in a big soft lounge chair or couch. The more expensive they are, the softer and the more fluff there is. So what I tell my parents is that Your child did not help you purchase that nice luxurious mattress or that chair or couch, so they really do not deserve the right to be in it. So we need them to be on a firm surface. The sleep position can cause suffocation, pillows, blankets, or toys. So Dr. Wathen actually started this journey, if you will, years ago when he was making rounds on the units. And what he was noticing was that this is a picture of kind of like what we saw with our babies. They were sleeping in the bassinets or in the cribs, and they were all nice and swaddled, and there were blankets under them. There were diapers at the end of the crib. Of course, grandma had to have the stuffed animal, or, the stuffed animal that grandma bought had to be right next to that baby in the crib so that the baby knew how much grandma loved him. And he's like, this is not a good thing. So he started to collect some data to see, are we telling parents what to do, but we're not practicing what we're preaching? So between 2012 and 2013, Dr. Wathen and his team observed 163 infants. And what he found out was that 154 of these infants, now this is exclusive to Cardinal Glennon, had at least one risk factor that he noted to be, a risk factor in causing a possibility of sleep-related death. 88 of these babies had one risk factor identified, so it was probably they were covered with a blanket. 60 or 39% of the babies had two risk factors, and 6 of the babies had 3 or more risk factors. Well, this was a problem. So Dr. Wathen continued on and tried to, he started a Safe Sleep Champion Committee, and we started to really follow completing audits and really educating our staff as well as our parents. When we talk about the American Academy of Pediatrics Safe Sleep recommendations, I love this graphic, and I think this is great for all of our healthcare workers to kind of understand why it is crucial that babies have to sleep on their back. However, I don't think it really is very good to show parents. I prefer actually demonstrating with my own hands, and I tell them, I make a circle with the left hand and I say, now this is my trachea, your baby's trachea, or their windpipe. And then I make a little bit of a bigger circle with my right hand, my right thumb and first finger, and I show them how the esophagus and the trachea kind of sit anatomically. So when they see that in-person demonstration, it seems to click in their head. Because I will tell you, most of our new parents rely on their elders, grandparents, for their information. Okay. Yes, we as healthcare professionals are the most respected profession out there. However, when it comes to that phone call at 2 o'clock in the morning when the baby's crying, they know not to really call the emergency room because we'll just tell them to bring the baby into the hospital. So who do they call? They call grandma, grandpa, great granny, an aunt, or an uncle. And what we did with our children, my son is 27 years old. What I did with him, I followed the recommendations at that time, but they are totally unsafe by today's standards. So really and truthfully, when I'm educating and doing my baby safety class, I really encourage grandparents because we want them to understand that recommendations change as more research is being done. So make sure that if you have the grandparents available, which a lot of times if it's the first baby, they usually are at the hospital. So take advantage of that and please educate the grandparents as well as the parents. Because a couple of things that I've heard my mom say is, well, I was always told, my mom told me if I put the baby on their back and they spit up in the middle of the night, they could choke to death and they could die. Or if I put my baby on their back to sleep, that their head will get flat. So yes, these are kind of like wives' tales, but in fact, parents truly look out to and reach out to and follow what their elders recommend. So back to the solely supine sleeping during at all times. We do not want that baby to have any wedges underneath them, you know, and roll them kind of on their side to prevent that reflux, because we do not want that accidental or that unintentional, you know, flipping over and rolling over and not be able to get back. They are not at increased risk of aspiration when they sleep supine. Actually, there have been no documented cases of any babies dying from choking to death and aspirating. However, there have been thousands and thousands of cases of infants that have died from sleeping prone. The next recommendation is that that baby needs to sleep on a firm sleeping surface and with only a fitted sheet. So we don't want that nice luxurious sheepskin. We don't want any down mattress pads. We want it to be firm and only about 1 inch to 1.5 inches in thickness is all we really and truthfully want, especially if it's like a bassinet or a pack and play. It's a little bit different if you buy a crib, of course, but we want to make sure that that crib and that mattress have met all of the safety requirements by the manufacturer. We do not want the baby to sleep in car seats. We do not want them sleeping in swings or strollers. This is the reason why the Rockaplays or incline sleepers have been recalled, because as you look at this diagram, what is the biggest part on the baby's body? It's their head. The weakest part is their neck muscles. Demonstrate this for your parents, okay? If we were to nod off and fall asleep, our head automatically kind of just goes forward. But because our cartilage of our trachea is a little bit more firm, we would be heard snoring. Whereas a baby, because their cartilage is so soft, their heads are so big, they really have no necks to speak of. When their head goes forward, it completely occludes that trachea, kind of like if you were to take a straw and bend it in half, or a garden hose. So you're not really going to hear them snore. However, there's no air going in. So always, 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 the baby needs to sleep supine in a flat position on their back. So this is an example of room sharing. As you see, mom can still tend to the baby. The baby is in their own safe sleep surface next to the mom. Again, the recommendations are that the baby sleeps room shares for the first 6 months of life up to the first year. The picture with the big ass, this is totally, totally, totally unsafe. And the baby is in an adult bed. There's mom next to him hovering over the baby. There's pillows, blankets, and everything. That baby is at an increased risk for suffocation. So please advocate room sharing. It does make it easier for mom to, if she is breastfeeding, which we do advocate. Breastfeeding and the use of a pacifier are considered to be protective factors. So it does make it easier having a portable play yard or a bassinet next to mom's bed, that during the middle of the night, she can just, you know, pick the baby up. She doesn't have to get out of bed and go into the nursery. Nothing in that crib, nothing at all. All soft objects such as loose bedding, positioners, they're not recommended. No bumper pads, no stuffed animals, no pillows, no blankets. And this is a picture of a swaddle sack. I'm sorry, this is not the swaddle sack. This is the sleep sack. After about 2 months of age, the baby, this is what the moms are going to use for a blanket. So during the winter time, because we do not want the baby to be overheated, so if it's cooler, they can dress the baby up a little bit underneath it. But then in the summertime, they can wear just a diaper or a onesie and just the sleep sack over it. This is a major barrier trying to get through to grandparents, that this is an adequate amount of protection to keep that baby warm. I will tell you that, and we'll talk a little bit more about them shortly, that 85% of our birthing hospitals nationally send the babies home with a swaddle sack. But the recommendations for swaddling is that the baby is only swaddled up until about the age of 2 months. And babies do like to be swaddled. Why? Well, it makes them feel as though they're still in the womb, where it's nice and warm and quiet and loving. And then they're born and it's chaotic and they're kind of a little bit anxious, if you will, because all of the lights and people kissing on them and hugging on them, they're like, take me back to where I was. So swaddling that baby does allow them that comfort, you know, that ability to still comfort themselves. But after a couple of months, they start getting a little bit used to being out in this world, and those arms start coming out of that swaddle. The other thing is if the baby were to accidentally roll over, they're not good. If their arms are swaddled, they're unable to flip themselves back. So the current recommendations by the American Academy of Pediatrics Safe Sleep Task Force is that the baby stays swaddled only up until the age of 2 months. So what happens is if they still need to have that kind of comfort, that closeness of the swaddle, you can use the swaddle, but take their arms out of it. If those arms are starting to come out, take the arms out of the swaddle part, and then just flip the swaddle, place it at the nipple or below. That'll still give them kind of that little bit of firmness or tightness or that comforting feeling. Consider using a pacifier during sleep. There is an association with it being a protective factor, again, like I said, as well as breastfeeding, to decrease sudden unexpected infant deaths or sleep-related deaths. The reasons are unclear. I will tell you my opinion, and it strictly is my opinion, is that brain, when that baby is feeding, whether it be on a breast nipple, a bottle nipple, a pacifier, the brain is sending impulses telling that baby, hey, suck on that nipple, you're going to get fed. So if that brain is staying active, why not send an impulse that says, hey, and while you're sucking, why don't you take a breath? Again, like I said, that's my opinion. However, we do advocate breastfeeding. Absolutely. It is the best form of nutrition for the babies. And also, it carries mom's antibodies. So it does help reduce some of the potential infections that the baby could get that could put them at a greater risk, like the respiratory infections that could put them at a greater risk for infant sleep-related death. So what I do is I highly, 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 and I totally emphasize this a lot with my moms, is that if you are a breastfeeding mom, we do not want you to offer the pacifier to the baby for about the first 5 to 6 weeks. We need to make sure that baby is latching on to that breast nipple, because babies, they're used to sucking on a tiny breast nipple and the food is coming, and then you put in a pacifier and there is no food associated with that, and that nipple is much larger. That baby will get what's called nipple confusion and may not latch back on. So no pacifier until that baby is latching on for breastfeeding moms. Do not over bundle or overheat the infant. The rule of thumb is no more than one layer of clothing. No more than one layer of clothing than what you have on or what mom would wear. So if mom has on a light sweater, then add one layer. This picture here, although it's a darling picture, it is totally, totally, totally not safe. And this is probably how my mom was with my son. We have to keep that baby. That baby's going to get pneumonia. That baby's too cold. So bundle them up, bundle them up. No more than one layer of extra clothing than what the adult is wearing is the recommendation. I used to work in the emergency room, and I would work night shift, and moms would run in and the baby would look like Ralphie from A Christmas Story, and their arms would be sticking out, their eyes were bugging out, their cheeks were bright and red and rosy, and mom would say, my baby has a fever. Well, after about taking off 7, 8, 9 layers of clothing, the baby's looking at you like, please help me, I'm just hot. That's the only problem, I'm just hot. After removing all that clothing and taking their temperature and letting them cool down for a couple seconds, they really and truthfully did not have a temperature. What about those home cardiorespiratory monitors? Because we all have them on our list, on our baby registry, and I have to have this to make sure that that I'm going to be able to get some sleep at night. I don't want my baby to die of SIDS, and if I'm sleeping, I won't know, etc. These are all comments that we hear from our parents. In fact, there is no evidence to support that they decrease the risk of SIDS or sleep-related deaths. However, what there is research to support is that it does increase parental anxiety. If you think about a pulse oximeter reading, that the sensor, you have to have optimal conditions. The sensor needs to be in the exact right place. It needs to be the finger or the toe needs to be, normal body temperature. So many things will trigger that apnea monitor or that pulse oximetry monitor reading to trigger that alarm. So what does it do? It really doesn't prevent sleep-related deaths. What it does is it increases the parent's anxiety. So, and think about it. This one on the right here, this baby's got this on his foot. What do babies? How do they move? They kick their feet. So, really and truthfully, how accurate are those readings? These are some recommendations that have been added recently due to the COVID pandemic. One of the things that is crucial to understand is because babies are obligate nose breathers up until 6 months of age, but the safe sleep practices go up until the age of 1. We do not want to put any mask on a child less than the age of 2 years. And it was brought to my attention, and so of course, that someone had seen on social media that there were companies that were making masks for infants. And so, of course, I had to look, and of course, there they were. So, in reviewing the literature, the CDC recommends that no masks are put on children under the age of 2 years. The other question that comes up with some of my moms is, well, what about, I wanted to breastfeed, but I'm afraid. Because what if, can the baby get COVID-19 in the breast milk? There are limited studies, however, no research has been shown to indicate that breast milk does contain the COVID-19. It still is considered to be a protective factor and, contain protective antibodies for the mom. So we do still advocate and encourage it. Moms should avoid exposure to anybody that's sick, whether it's COVID or anything else, during her whole pregnancy, because, as her body's going through changes, and even post-delivery, she's kind of at an increased risk. Her immune system is kind of diminished a little bit, so she's at an increased risk. So it really and truthfully is healthy for both mom and baby that she does avoid people that are ill. If the mom is ill, but still wishes to breastfeed. Again, these are the recommendations. Make sure that she's washing her hands before and after, and constantly actually washing her hands, but before or after the feeding. And then during the feeding, just mom needs to wear the face mask and then feed upon demand. So we as healthcare professionals, it is our responsibility that not only do we educate, but we should also endorse safe sleep risk reduction measures and education to our parents and caregivers. And it needs to begin actually not only at birth, but during that prenatal phase, when the mom is going to, getting her prenatal visits, mom needs to be learning and hearing about what are the safe sleep recommendations and how do I reduce the risk of sleep-related deaths. Then when mom delivers, that same message needs to be given again to mom, dad, caregivers, grandparents. And then again, like I said previously, it needs to continue at each and every prenatal visit, well baby visit after the baby's born. If we all are giving the same message, there must be some truth to that message. Okay. Actually, the time 24 to 48 hours after delivery is the research shows is going to be the best time to really get parents to comply with those recommendations, if you will. But remember, they're getting overwhelmed with all kinds of information from their families, friends, from us in the hospital. So there is a lot of information when that baby is born. So how do we as healthcare providers prevent the safe sleep message from getting lost in the noise? It is a difficult challenge, but here are some tips. Remember that parent or that caregiver will associate their education that they're getting from their influencers. All right. So how do I compete with grandma? Because grandma's going to be calling every day, providing, mom with, well, this is how it was when you were born. This is how I did it, and this is how you should do it. So we suggest using a prompt. Provide pamphlet There are numerous pamphlets that you can get on online through various resources and websites that I will share with you at the end of this presentation. You can give them a handout. At the top of this screen, you see a key to a safe sleep environment. This is something that we began instituting at Cardinal Glennon on, it stays in the baby's room, okay? And it's visible so that staff sees it and can use it as an education tool, but also while the parents are in the room or the caregivers are in the room, that message is still there. It's visible for them to see. And then, you know, pamphlets are great, providing handouts are great, but I will tell you that they get overwhelmed with all of the reading literature. And when you have a newborn baby, who has time to go home and read all of this literature? It's very, very difficult. So how am I going to make my education stick out? If you provide a free gift, such as that swaddle sack, and this is the swaddle sack that we were discussing earlier, and 85% of the hospitals provide that for the parents. Providing them that while you're giving that piece of education will stick in their mind. Oh, so I understand, you know, that the baby, we really want to keep the baby warm, but this is how you can use this swaddle sack and use your education piece at that point. Demonstrate how to use it, why is it effective, and that will have that lasting impression on that parent or caregiver when they take that baby home. What we do not want to do, we do not want to approach the topic in a negative tone. So for example, you don't sleep with your baby, do you? Instead, maybe we should just ask, so tell me, where does your baby sleep at night? And oh, how is that going? Do you find that it's, you know, more difficult for you to feed the baby sitting on the edge of the bed? Or do you feel, you know, take that as a conversation piece. But please do not approach it in a negative tone, because that will shut them down immediately. And do not respond to a question in a negatively. So don't tell people what they shouldn't do. Don't do that, or you should know better. You know, acknowledge what they're doing right. Praise them for what they're doing right. Empower them. You know, I have 4 kids at home, and I remember how difficult it was for my wife, especially, and I, you know, at night to have to stay awake to breastfeed the baby. Or I know it can be hard, especially when you're tired, but then reiterate or give them the recommendations, and maybe the 2 of you or the group of you can come up with alternative ways or some sort of information sharing that may be adaptable for them. So that's Dr. Wathen. And this is a picture from the movie Dr. Strangelove. And so when Dr. Wathen, going back to the observations and the data that he was collecting, when he saw that we were not practicing what we were preaching, he said something needs to be done. And he's like, oh my gosh, what have I stirred up? So I had to ask him. Dr. Strangelove's face was there before I put Dr. Wathen's. I said, what does this picture depict? Like, what is the point you're trying to make? And he said it was kind of like being on a nuclear bomb. This was from the movie Dr. Strangelove. So his question was what have I stirred up? So he said, we've got a problem. What are we going to do? Where do we start? So assessing the current compliancy of our healthcare providers. What were we doing in our units? And how compliant were we with the recommendations? And then he identified the weaknesses, he accentuated the strengths, and he recruited eager participants. He started the Safe Sleep Champion Committee. And so there were champions that were on each of the units. They would help with educating the rest of the staff, maintaining compliance, helping with changes and revisions in policy that could be brought forth. And so everything was really good. But then as people moved on to different units or different entities, the Safe Sleep Champion Committee had kind of fizzled out. So last year, the end of last year, Dr. Wathen, myself, and Emily Nicoletti, who was our quality and safety nurse at Cardinal Glennon, who was an original Safe Sleep Champion, we kind of rebooted the Safe Sleep Champion Committee. So upon completing this PowerPoint presentation, you know, you will be able to, you too will become a safe sleep champion. So Dr. Wathen kind of took it a little bit a step further because he was becoming the safe sleep expert for Cardinal Glennon. And through his research and through his internet surfing, as I called it, he came upon the National Safe Sleep Hospital Certification Program that's put out by Cribs for Kids. Cribs for Kids, this program is endorsed by leading health and safety agencies and organizations. And what they do is they recognize hospitals, EMS, and law enforcement providers, community partners and organizations. They recognize them when they demonstrate their leadership for best practices in education and infant safe sleep. The hospital certification program, one of the requirements is that we have to be providing consistent infant safe sleep information that is evidence-based, and it's based on the American Academy of Pediatrics Safe Sleep Task Force recommendations. So with the overarching goal, our outcome to be that we're reducing the risk of injury and deaths to infants while sleeping. So Dr. Wathen said, I'm already doing all of this. We've already got this. Let me pursue this a little bit further. So there are 3 certification levels for hospitals. The bronze level is going to be, at that level, you need a safe sleep policy and your staff needs to be trained. And then as you move up the ladder, the silver level, you add another component. You provide the sleep sacks, the wearable blankets for the parent, that the baby is sleeping with the wearable blanket. And then at the gold level, that adds another level of doing the community outreach and education. And so Dr. Wathen started on a journey to train staff. So he and the executive director at the time of SIDS Resources, which is now called Infant Loss Resources, there was some grant funding that was offered, and they went into all of our units at Cardinal Glennon, and they provided training for the healthcare provider. He identified champions within the units or on each unit. And the other part of training the staff was that there is an online CEU training that I encourage you to visit. It's put out by the NICHD Eunice Kennedy Shriver National Institute of Child Health and Human Development. It is at no cost. You'll get a certificate. It's an hour-and-a-half training. Again, it is based on the recommendations, the current recommendations. So there are different ways to train your staff. Again, this presentation will be adequate in training you as a safe sleep champion. And then we have to educate our parents. How do we do that? Well, there are numerous resources out there. The Missouri Department of Health and Human Services, the Missouri Department of Social Services, and the Children's Trust Fund have all combined to produce resources available on each of their websites, as well as a new video that is great to show your parents. They used to have a video, but it was outdated. So the new video just debuted in November of last year, and it includes a safe sleep expert from Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City, Dr. Jamie Condis from St. Louis Children's Hospital, and our own Dr. David Wathen from Cardinal Glennon. And it also tells stories. There's grandparents. So it's not just a video that says, do this, do this, do this, don't. It really and truthfully has those interactive interviews and those stories that seem to stick with people. So I do encourage you to share that with your caregivers and your new parents when they're at your facility. There are other resources available online at the Eunice Kennedy Shriver Foundation that are at no cost as well. The one that I've just most recently added to our Safe Sleep folder of information that my moms get when they take the baby safety class is the flyer on how to breastfeed your baby and reduce the risk of SIDS. This is a wonderful flyer or educational piece, because that is a major concern for a lot of moms. I really want to breastfeed, but I'm not sure. So this is free. You can download it, you can copy it and distribute it as you see. And then community classes. We offer a Baby Safety 101 class throughout the community in Missouri and Illinois. All of our SSM facilities, no, not all of them anymore, but Cardinal, Glennon, St. Mary's, DePaul, St. Clair, we do provide that education. I do know that the perinatal outreach directors at each of the hospitals, when they're doing their prenatal classes, they are also including safe sleep education in there. So utilize some of these resources. When we do community events, every community event I'm at, I have information related to every risk area of unintentional injuries, including safe sleep. And we talk about, we do one-on-one conversation, why babies can't sleep in car seats. And I love this picture in the corner. The one problem we're really starting to see that we really need to start focusing on our education on is bottle propping. Just this year, we've had 3 or 4 deaths, infant deaths related to or caused by bottle propping in our area. So, but most importantly, we need to be that role model, because that parent or that caregiver is watching every single move we make and is listening to every single word we say. And if I say A and you say B, that parent or caregiver is going to come back and say, who do I believe? So again, we need to be a role model. I cannot sit there and say, now you cannot have this baby sleeping with all of these blankets in the bed, but yet I have the baby swaddled up and have 4 blankets on top of them. Okay, we have to be a role model. So what else he did was he began to replace the receiving blankets on our infant toddler floor, and which they still do. They put the baby in their sleep sack or their wearable blanket. We already talked about the top picture is that swaddle sack, and that goes from birth to 2 months. There is the hospital program available. They come in cotton or fleece. We recommend the cotton or jersey knit ones because we don't want the baby to be overheated. After 2 months, then they can go into the wearable blanket, as you see in the picture below with the little campfires and bear setting. This is the wearable blanket that we provide our moms that take our baby safety class. Then part of the other thing was that there has to be an evaluation tool or an audit tool. And Dr. Wathen did have an audit tool, pretty much was only about 4 or 5 things that he went in, and that's how he collected his data. But beginning March 1st of this year, we have instituted the K cards at Cardinal Glennon, and we've opened them up to all of our SSM hospitals. And this is a picture of them. They are in RBO. If you need me to send you the PDF, you can print them off. But these stay the champion when they go in and they educate with the parent. If they notice that there is a baby sleeping, they identify the nurse who's taking care of that baby and says, hey, I noticed that Johnny's sleeping. Why don't we go in and do our K card on safe sleep? So the green is positive. That's all of the pass criteria. And then the red is the criteria where 1 or more items were non-compliant. We fixed the problem at the bedside. You can develop your own organizational toolkit if you need to, our audit tool. And then Cribs for Kids actually has a toolkit that includes an audit tool for you that you can download at no cost. There's that gold level, that community and media outreach. This is how Miss Lori got pulled into this. So Dr. Wathen had all of those preceding things under his belt, but in order to get that gold level certification, he needed to know what we were doing in the community. Again, prenatal and infant care classes. I teach the child and infant CPR classes, and guess what? We talk about safe sleep before we talk about infant CPR. Community events, and then the baby safety 101 classes. So these are all examples. If you're doing a breastfeeding class, you can integrate it. We need to make sure the message is consistent. July 15th, 2015, SSM Health Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital became the first hospital in the state of Missouri to become certified as a gold level safe sleep champion. So that was a pretty big major accomplishment for us. These are just some of the resources. Again, this is the Eunice Kennedy Shriver Foundation, Safe to Sleep. You can go online, follow up under resources. These brochures that you see, they come in different languages. Excuse me, Spanish and English. There is Safe Sleep for Your Grandbaby. These are all, you can get these at no cost. They can send them to you. You can download them. Now, they do limit quantities on some of the items that they have, but you can order them monthly, for example. Cribs for Kids, they too have resources available that you can, print off, or you can purchase some of their other things that they offer, that are more, that are handed out, to hand out. But that's another resource. And then Halo Innovations, this is one of the manufacturers of the wearable blankets and the swaddle sacks. This is who we use through our hospital certification program, that they have that hospital program where they will provide them for you at no cost. And then if you send them home with the child, they have a different cost, etc. But the reason I'm showing you this picture is that they also have educational brochures. Whether you purchase sleep sacks from their organization or not, you can still request these nice little trifold brochures to provide to your parents that talk about the safe sleep recommendations. And then Infant Loss Resources, we partner with them. They do a lot of the same safe sleep education that we do. They actually do a Train the Trainer program. That's where I earned my Train the Trainer certification, if you will, in education. But their mission basically is that they are to promote, their mission is to promote safe practices that reduce the risk of infant death, but they also provide grief support for families who have lost a baby. There's their phone number. It's listed. They do distribute pack and plays in education, as we do. There are numerous resources that they partner, or agencies that they partner with, that distribute and provide education as well, because they're a very small organization. Our team is a very small organization, team. So we need all of the help that we can get. So one of the things that I love Rosa Parks. My son kind of turned me on to Rosa Parks when he was young and in school. And he was like, Mom, do you know how cool of a lady she was? Yes, she was. So one of her quotes that I just love is that in order to bring change, you must not be afraid to take the first step. We will fail when we fail to try. And I really truthfully live by that. Nobody likes change. We're going through a lot of change right now in our current state with this COVID pandemic, and people are very resistant and they're very fearful. But if you don't take that first step, then you will fail. It will be a failure. So I do encourage you to bring about change, and don't be afraid to take that first step. And let's all be on the same page. Let's, really try to prevent our infant deaths by making sure that we're educating, and that we are the perfect role models. I thank you for your time. This is my contact information. Dr. Wathen and Emily, you can contact any of us. If you would like to have an in-person presentation at your facility, I'm always game to talk in person. I love actually doing that. So once this COVID virus or this COVID pandemic resolves, please feel free to reach out to me. If you need the links, or if you need any other information, I am here to help you. We all are here to help you. And I would like to introduce you to one of my little graduates who often comes back before COVID to visit me, probably about once a month. So this is a great class. I am very passionate about this, and I thank you for your time.